Today on Locked On Buckeyes, we discuss what's at stake for Ryan Day in Ohio State's battle with Michigan and a five-star offensive tackle in the class of 2024 put the Buckeyes in his top 7.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thanksgiving, Buckeyes fans. I hope you're enjoying your time with your family and friends. And thank you also for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. I am your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Thursday, November 23rd in the year 2023. And joining us during today's show is Locked On's recruiting analyst, Mr. Brian Smith. Brian and I touch on the game between Ohio State and Michigan. Also touched on a five-star offensive tackle that put the Buckeyes in his top 7. And another offensive lineman that's a target for the Buckeyes decommitted from the school he was previously committed to. A lot of good stuff coming today. And once again, I hope you're enjoying your time with your family and friends. And I appreciate you making Locked On Buckeyes on Thanksgiving a part of your day. And as we welcome in Brian Smith, Locked On's recruiting analyst, I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. Brian, happy to have you back, but also happy to have this show here on Thanksgiving. Ohio State Michigan week is here, and we're here celebrating the week of Thanksgiving and giving thanks to the people in our lives. Brian, welcome in. What are you doing to celebrate Thanksgiving this year?
Well, number one, I'm going to watch a lot of football. That's how I like to celebrate a lot of things. But I'm actually going to be leaving on Thanksgiving and headed north a little bit. I'm going to my first Iron Bowl.
Oh,
and
nice.
Yeah, so look, I know that game probably isn't going to be close, but I have a chance to go to it. You're darn right I'm going to go. So I'm looking forward to that, to be honest.
Absolutely. Your first one, I would have assumed at some point you would have made the trek maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but no,
Just
first
never
one,
happened. I'm going to be on the field. So, if I get any tips from Nick Saban, I'll pass them along.
Ryan Day might need them. Ryan Day might need all the tips he can get. My wife and I are spending Thanksgiving celebrating our first one together married. We had plans to do other things, but then it ended up being, no, we're just going to stay home. She's cooking food. I'll do a little bit, and then we'll just watch football. And she wants to watch the parade on Thursday morning, and we'll be watching that parade and watch a little ball as well. And just celebrate being together. Didn't really think I'd be married at this point in my life, even though I'm in my 30s. But here we are. I got a beautiful wife. We have a beautiful place to live. And those are a couple of things I am currently thankful for. Brian, this wasn't planned, but maybe what is something you're thankful for this year?
Well, I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be a part of Locked On. It kind of came out of the blue, and it's expanding a lot. The Locked On show, the live show that came on, has helped expand all our channels. It's a blast. We get paid to watch and talk about football. I can't think of too many people that do what you or I do in that regard. So I'm pretty thankful for that. All I do really is football. It's kind of hard not to be blessed.
Football is the talk of the week. Yes, there's NBA basketball, the in-season tournament, and college basketball. Purdue had a game the other day, won again, one of the best teams in the country. But nothing hits like football does during Thanksgiving week. And on Saturday afternoon in the Big House in Ann Arbor, the 2023 version of Ohio State and Michigan will be played. Brian, we have talked all week on the show about the game. We talked about Ohio State's offense, the defense, a conversation about Ryan Day earlier in the week, but we haven't really discussed what's at stake for Ryan Day during this game. When you think about Ryan Day, first off, before thinking about what's at stake, I know you have opinions on Ryan Day that are very strong. Do you think he is able to coach Ohio State to a win on Saturday?
Well, I'm actually picking Ohio State to win.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm picking them to win. I've changed a lot of it. We'll get into in a minute, but I think all the pressure is now on Michigan because, and part of it, it's not the Michigan players' fault.
Right.
Let me be very clear. We all know what's going on. And I think that's a heavy burden. And like or dislike Jim, he is a very good football coach on game day. Whether you want to, you can admit it or not. And I'm sure a lot of Ohio State fans can't say that out loud. They're too biased. That's fine. I could care less about that. I'm just a realist. And him not being able to coach, what's that worth? 5 points? Something like that. No offense to the other guy. He's not ready to be the head coach at Michigan. I don't care which guy they pulled off the state. There's no way. So good luck. But yeah, I like Michigan to lose by about 7 to 10 points in this game.
Why is that? Why do you think that they'll end up losing by that margin?
Because I just don't think their passing game's any good. I mean, I get that they ran the ball on Penn State, and Penn State's offense is anemic.
Yeah,
being kind.
Yes.
But at some point, you have to be able to consistently beat teams on the perimeter. Ohio State has the best pass defense in the country, statistically at least. There's top 5 by about any generic measurement. And Michigan's receiver corpus is a little beat up, and they don't show me guys that are making spectacular plays or anything close to it on a consistent basis. And I think McCarthy's a good quarterback. But is that situation on the sidelines also going to take away? He likes to run the ball. You're not going to just run the ball on Ohio State. I could be wrong, but unless they pop a big one or something, get an 80-yarder, which Michigan is certainly capable of doing, I think Ohio State will wear them out. And I also think that they are going to hit, Marvin will hit at least one big play. They kind of walk into the game 7-0 because of Marvin. That's how I look at it. There's going to be a play in the game. No matter what you do, he's going to score probably. And that's the difference. He's the most consistent guy in the country at making that play. So I like the Bucks by at least 7. And I just think that the coaching edge really swings to Ohio State because Jim's not on the sideline. And that's maybe even another 5 to 7 after that. I would not be surprised if they won by double digits. It's going to be hard for Michigan's players to overcome all the stuff on the sidelines, in the stands, TV and all that. Not fair to them.
Right.
But that's the world that we live.
Let's look at Michigan's players real quick before going to Ryan Day, because I haven't heard many people really say what you said about how it's not really on the players or fair for them. This is more the coaches, Stallions, the covering up evidence, the linebackers coach that got fired.
That's
Jim
unreal,
Harbaugh.
by the way.
It's so stupid. It's so dumb. I can understand if you were – no, I can't understand it. Like, your school, your football program is under investigation for cheating, and the NCAA is not coming after the school, but simply investigating. Then to go about covering up evidence? Dumb. So dumb. But for these players at Michigan, I don't normally feel bad for people at Michigan for understandable reasons. I feel bad for them and the future players because, Brian, they're going to get punished for something they didn't do.
This is one of the oddest things that I've ever seen in all the investigations outside of the SMU case, which will always be top of the board.
Yeah.
This might be the worst. And it's not because it's the worst thing that's happened. Let me be clear, but it's the goofiest, like could have been avoided. Let's look at it this way. Whether you agree with them cheating or not, how dumb is the following? When you work for any state institution, generic government, education, police, whatever, if you have something that could be negative, do you put it on that institution's hard drives? Do you transfer that information around on their stuff? If you were going to have this information, you have to have it 100% on something that never, ever touches their servers. To have it on an computer, you're a moron. Period. Now the players are going to pay for that because as part of the punishment, I guarantee you, over and over, you're going to hear for the rest of your life, when Michigan was caught, they destroyed evidence. Just that apart, the ignorance of it and why it was there in the first place. And I'm not advocating cheating, but at least have the common sense not to put it on the computer that you sit at every day. And how dumb are you? How dumb? I'm not sure it's quantifiable.
So dumb. So dumb. What's not dumb, though, is how Ryan Day is viewing this game and why you and I both think – I also think Ohio State will win. I am saving my prediction for tomorrow's show, but I think Ohio State will win because of the defense. And I'm going to get into that next here, Brian, and dive into why I think the defense is up to the task next on Locked On Buckeyes. Brian, I've seen Ryan Day grow in a way this year and adjust in a way that I didn't think he was going to, and kind of riding his defense that is one of the best units in the country. I don't want to say the best because that's a big, bold statement, but I'll easily say they're one of the best defensive units in the country. And Ryan Day's belief in that unit is a big reason why you and I both believe they'll win this game.
Well, let's talk about the defense in general here, man. Name a team that went from where it was last year at the Michigan game to now.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had moments where they bend a lot. Like they could have gave up 30 to a number of teams, but teams get past about the 40-yard. Like Notre Dame shot themselves in the foot a little bit, but Ohio State's defense was clutch too. Got to give them credit. And then that's just happened over and over. And then what they did to Penn State is just comical.
Man.
I mean, part of that was self-inflicted on Penn State, but Ohio State wasn't dumb and just let them to keep doing it. The coaches and the players were congruent. Hey, these guys cannot throw the ball. If we just stuff the run pretty good here, 3rd and 5 ain't going to end well for them. And it was the last drive when Penn State scored. They got their first down on the 3rd. That is ridiculous. For their first 15.
Yes.
That is unreal. So you got to give all that staff credit. Here's the final part. JT, and for whatever reason, I don't know why this is, he is very clutch in pass rushing situations in the fourth quarter. Yeah. Has been for a long time. You need X factor players in any major game. Name me a guy that you would trust more than him. And I know you're biased because you're an Ohio State guy. Yeah. But is there a better pure pass rusher? And he can play strong side or weak. It doesn't even matter. Name a better guy than him. Maybe Jared Verse, you could argue, but I'd go JT. And, I cover Florida State and all that, but the deflection he made against Notre Dame, the plays that he made just in general in some of the other big games last year and this year, he finds a way to get his hands on the football or the quarterback in the fourth quarter. That guy, combined with now the secondary is not giving up just this botch. The plays against Michigan last year, they're always going to have to live with. They aren't making those plays anymore. They're coming downhill. They're making tackles in the screen game. They're active in the run game, and they don't give up the big passing plays. Ohio State's defense is where Ryan Day starts, which is weird because we both know, and everybody listening to this pod, he's an offensive dude.
Yeah.
The hardest thing and this is something that's not happening in LA, ironically, you're one of your future opponents. In practice, the key to offensive football is gritting your teeth, walking away, and taking out some offensive plays and doing old school football drills that are tackling, pass rush, defensive oriented. It's not happening in Los Angeles, and I'm pretty sure you know what program I'm talking about, but it's happening in Columbus, Ohio. Hats off to Ryan Day, their entire staff, for balancing it. They weren't going to score as much losing who they did at quarterback anyway. They found the perfect match for this year's Ohio State Buckeyes, and it's a tremendous job.
Brian, what's at stake for Ryan Day in this game?
If he loses 3 in a row, especially in this situation, it would be awkward. But the only reason I still put more pressure on Michigan is that they've just got everybody after them. I mean, both sides, and every year it's, fans for both schools are so blinded, and no offense, Ohio State fans, they're about as bad as it gets on being blindfolded here. But it's in Michigan. It's at the big house. They have the world against them. They're going to come out with their pants on fire. They have nothing to lose in that sense. But at the same time, you can also say, well, Michigan, coach is not there and all that. I get it, but I still don't think that's the biggest deal. He's been cited off because everybody's just making fun of Harbaugh. So I think it's taken down a notch. Do you agree or disagree? Because there's so much attention on Jim. I mean, now if Michigan won 23-7 or something, then that's a whole nother deal. But I think considering what he's worked with and how he's got them with, quite honestly, a guy I don't think will make the NFL as his quarterback to go undefeated to this point. And again, I know Ohio State fans have blinders when it comes to Michigan. He's done a tremendous job this year. I think he should be up for National Coach of the Year honors based on what he's done. And again, no offense to the quarterback situation. The guys they've had before, it's just a whole nother level. To be 11-0 at this point, I think it's pretty good. So it'd be great for him to win and kind of get the monkey off his back. He's lost 2 in a row, but this is not a typical Ohio State team. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You have about this much chance to win the national title and beat Georgia the way they're playing right. Georgia's winning again, barring injury. If everybody wants to throw things at me, go right ahead. I don't want them to, but they're going to. Enjoy this and go out and beat Michigan.
That's the goal. Go out there and beat Michigan. And I do agree with you. Georgia's a different animal. I never, ever thought Kirby would coach a team with the weapons and with the fluidity and consistency on offense that he's currently having. Defense, of course, like that's expected. But offensively, my gosh, those guys can play.
They're throwing for 320 a game. What?
Right. I think about running backs. I don't think about like passing.
It looks like Georgia has flipped with Ohio State. Georgia's defenses went down a notch. Ohio State's defense is actually a little better. But the quarterback play is so much better at Georgia than pretty much any other school in the SEC, not named LSU. There's a certain guy down there as well, different. But outside of that, yeah, good luck. So again, I know Ohio State fans, again, blinders. They don't accept anything other than national title, or they're mad. So they're going to be mad at the end of the year, but I think they're going to beat Michigan. Be happy for where you're at. And regardless of what happens, even, like let's say Michigan wins, they are in the big house. It is Michigan. For the idiot brigade that comes out and say, let's fire Ryan Day, who are you going to hire? It's not going to happen. Number one, he's not going to get fired. Number two, who are you going to hire? Say that about 100 more times because there aren't good candidates out there. So Michigan's about to take a step down. We can talk about that here in a minute, but not this year. They're still going to have to earn the game. But again, I think Ohio State by about 10 to 14 be final, my guess, something like that. Because I just don't like Michigan's passing game, man. I'm sure you've watched them. What is going on with that? Like, it's weird. They don't even try to pass. It's like 1962.
But this somewhat reminds me of what Harbaugh wants. He wants that ground and pound, not really trying to use the pass type of offense. Like, he wants that. Unfortunately, I don't think that's a recipe for success if you're trying to win a national championship. You can win Big Ten conference championships with that philosophy. You can't do that in the playoff or the Natty because those teams are different. Brian, you talked about things being a little bit different for Michigan. One thing about Michigan, one question, because Ohio State fans are going to wonder if Harbaugh will get fired, if he should get fired. Do you think Harbaugh will keep his job once the investigation is complete?
It depends on how much of that info gets directly laid at his feet. Unlike the moron with the computer, which that's still on Jim, because even if he knew about all this, he should have been like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Accidentally on purpose, somebody needed to drop coffee on that computer a long time ago. But unless they can get him this stone cold, and they're not, he's just going to go to the NFL. Or he's going to retire. I don't think there's any way you can really circumvent this situation because of lawyers where this would take away from coaches, and it's why coaches cheat. What's the cost to me if we get caught? Okay, I walk away. I've got more money and I can never spend anyway. Why do I care? I mean, guys like him are 100% in or out. Most elite coaches are a little different in any sport. I mean, like Bobby Knight recently passed. He's the most unique guy, arguably in recent sports history in extreme. But Harbaugh's in that sense too. They don't care. So I don't know. Maybe he gets fired, but they would have to have that backdoor conversation. NCAA's like, look, Mr. President, University of Michigan, we just found out X, Y, and Z. This is not going to end well. Now, Harbaugh has been a pain in our you-know-what for a long time. Why don't you get rid of him and we'll reduce this? Those kind of things I guarantee you happen because Harbaugh bitches about everything. He's just a guy that's always mad. NCAA would love to get rid of him, but Michigan who are they going to replace Harbaugh with? They're talking about Ryan Day.
Yeah.
You're not. I mean, he's not a fun guy to have right. Everybody dislike. I get it. Who are you going to get? Do you think everybody liked Bo Schembechler? Do you think everybody liked Woody Hayes?
You're right.
I mean, it's the same thing. They're all a pain in the you-know-what, but they can coach. People just do not accept losing under any. It's just the way it is. Humans are very narrow-minded.
Yes.
So Michigan's in a tough spot if they get that phone call. And they, at the same time, like him or not, NFL's different. I'm the head coach. You don't want to play for me? That's fine. Here's cut. You can leave now. It's a different deal than college. With what they're doing offensively, you were just talking about like the receiver. Michigan's going to take a step back in recruiting with what they're doing because receivers aren't going to go there. They're not. Why would you? And to that point, look at their receiver recruiting compared to other big name programs, not just Ohio State, but just in general across the country. It's not the same as what it should be for a team to go into the playoff. This would be their last chance, in my opinion, especially with Blake in the backfield. He's a special running back to beat Ohio State moving forward. If he leaves too, you could see this series jump back in the other direction. Whether or not he's fired, he leaves. I think it's more likely he leaves on his own accord. But again, if the NCAA makes that phone call, you can call it whatever you want. If it's sudden, like everything's fine, then 2 days later he's in Minnesota or something, you know what happened.
Brian, there's a jump, not jump back for Ohio State recruiting, but Ohio State fans would love to jump up in the recruiting, and they have a chance. They're in the top 5 for a top 7, or top 7, for a 5-star offensive tackle, and a Buckeye commit or target decommitted from his current school, school that he was committed to. A couple Ohio State recruiting athletes and targets are going to be coming up next here on Locked On Buckeyes. Brian, as I get my words back together, because that ending to that last segment was a little bit off, there are a couple guys, we got to talk recruiting with you, that Ohio State has their eyes on. The first one, 5-star offensive tackle Jordan Seaton, put Ohio State in his top 7. And this is a guy, I think you and I talked about him, like, not trying to be sarcastic, like months ago, and talked about, hey, his talent, what he is, who he is, all that stuff. Remember his name coming up, and I don't know if I talked to you about him or someone else, but then all of a sudden, signing day is about a month away, the early signing day, and he's putting in his top 7. Ohio State's in that group. Before we discuss the other players that are in this grouping, what's the significance of his top 7 being announced right now?
It's a little bit different. I do know, and I'd gotten on Seaton about this 2 months ago, something like that, towards the end of, maybe it was August. I was like, look, man, you got to narrow this down. You're gonna get hammered here at the end, because at the end they got nothing else to do. There's only 2 or 3 guys left, but there's going to be 30 schools all trying to recruit you. Yeah. I'm telling you this out of your own good kind of deal. Well, he's at least narrowed it some, but like Oregon and Alabama and Ohio State, he still has guys on his list that, let's be honest, those staffs get after it.
Yeah.
He needs to narrow it to 3 pretty quick. I don't even know which ones he still has left as officials because I can't keep up with Jordan. But at the same time, the ones that I hear the most are Florida and Ohio State and Alabama. Alabama, I never count out for offensive linemen. Their tradition in the last 10 years there. Pretty good. So yeah. I will always leave that there. But he's a unique kid. Colorado's a place he's been. I don't know what the 7 means, though. Maryland's where he's from originally. I don't think he'll go there, but I wouldn't put it past him. I know, like, he's the top of the board for the Gators. They desperately need an offensive lineman. So however you want to take that top 7, man, you might know more than me because I'm just guessing here.
No, it's one of the guessing games because honestly, like I told you before, it was not like out of sight, out of mind, but kind of it was because I just assumed he was already snagged by somebody, just didn't know who that school was. I just said, hey, it's good. But it reminds me about last year. I think it was last year's cycle. We had Mateo Uiagalelei and Keon Keeley, Damon Wilson. I think all 3 of them took it until almost the end before announcing where they were going to play college football. You sometimes get these guys that are stars, that are that good in high school, that want to take a long time, want to wait the process out. Maybe they've already made their decision, but they don't want to let anybody know until signing day. There's pluses. There's also some negatives to that decision. I heard someone recently, I think it was Jeff Teague on his podcast, said, hey, you might want to make your decision before your senior year of high school so you can simply play basketball the conversation he was having. And I understand that. But some guys just want to wait it out, want to hear it out. Some guys want to hear how coaches are. In the case of Colorado and even Ohio State, Colorado, you don't know what you're going to get with Colorado and Deion Sanders. At Ohio State, you're trying to see, hey, I saw what they did with Paris Johnson Jr. and DeJuan Jones. How do they develop two new starting offensive tackles? So those are just a few little wrinkles into this. But him announcing this now, okay, I understand it. But, Brian, I really, really hope he knows where he's going, because as you're right. In a couple weeks, or even right now, everybody's coming at you because they want a commitment from you.
Yeah, man, it's got to be grinding on the kids that still haven't made up their mind. Even the ones that are down to 2, that's hard. 7?
Yeah.
That's not good. No. So I'm guessing that part of that is window dressing. I'm guessing that it's no more than 4, possibly 3. And the others are just kind of window dressing. That's my guess. Again, my projection is Florida, Alabama, or Ohio State. Now that I said that, I probably screwed over Florida, Alabama, and Ohio State. But he is, just to be clear, a really good kid, really intelligent, hard worker, and he can play left tackle. You put all those things together, you get the kind of recruitment that he has. He's a top 100 kid. And somebody's going to get a really good player that's technically sound and probably going to play pretty early. So we'll see where he goes. I don't even know if he has a plan for the announcement date, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough.
Brian, we recently talked about a talented offensive tackle, a 3-star kid from Michigan who is in the class of 2024 that was currently committed to Northwestern, but was taking a visit to Ohio State. Well, Gabe Van Sickle, that talented offensive tackle, recently decommitted from Ohio State decommitted from Northwestern right after taking a visit to Ohio State. And my mind is saying, hey, maybe Ohio State is going to push harder for this young man to get a commitment from him.
You would think they would lead. The only caveat, maybe he wants to take one more visit to school X, and I have no idea.
I mean, honestly, it could be Michigan. I mean, he's in that state in the games this weekend. It could be Michigan.
Could be. But with what's going on there, Lord only knows. There could be other institutions. Kids now from that state could go anywhere. I mean, Clemson has a defensive tackle that's starting from the state of Michigan. So anything is possible with the way college football is now. But he's a really good player. And I was surprised, like I told you before on the other podcast that I was on with you, I'm surprised he's not A, rated a little higher, and B, that more schools aren't really after him. And maybe that's kind of opened up, and maybe that's why he decommitted, just to solidify, hey, I might take a look at your school if you call. But in his case, there's the other problem. Man, that's a short period to develop a relationship with an O-line coach and the guys in that room. So again, Ohio State has to be considered the definitive favorite.
I would think so too. Local Midwest kid. He may be a Michigan fan. He may not be a Michigan fan. Wherever your fandom is, I don't think that's going to sway, because everywhere I'm looking, Ohio State he's on the target of Ohio State, and Ohio State's high in that getting the chances to get a commitment from him. And Ohio State only has 3 offensive linemen currently committed in that class, so they desperately need at least one more offensive lineman in that class to add, because I think you and I have talked about this previously. I personally believe every recruiting class, no less than 4, but you should realistically recruit 5 and have 5 committed offensive linemen for every recruiting class. With the way the transfer portal works, injuries unfortunately happen, and just some players don't develop like you thought they would. You need, realistically, no less than 4, probably 5 offensive linemen in every class. With only 3 right now, either Seeden or Van Sickle, Ohio State needs to push to get a commitment from one of those 2 guys.
I love the opportunity that the transfer portal gives programs to get tackles. But think about this, and I've spoken to coaches about this. This is not Brian Smith's opinion. This is college coaches. OT in particular, and offensive line in general, is so coveted that when a player enters his name into the portal, and I'm not talking about the Jordan Seaton of college football that's a top 5 guy or whatever. But a guy that was a part-time starter at frickin' Minnesota or something, they get 30 phone calls.
Yeah.
The number of O-linemen available as well. And it's kind of a weird deal, but O-line come out of high school different. They're different during their time. They're different when they graduate. They don't like change as much. Just personality-wise, O-line is a little different. I don't know why. It's always been that way. Not as many guys are going to be as upset about not playing at O-line. Like receiver, look, that is more of a me spot. Kids don't hang out on the depth chart long. I'm not playing, I'm gone.
Right.
That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
You can recruit kids at quarterback all you want, and part of that is, only one guy usually plays. I don't care how good the coach is. And after this year, Ohio State's going to lose somebody. I guarantee it. They're going to lose somebody. Nothing Ryan Day and his staff can do about it because it goes on at every school. Just is. Finally, back to the O-line. If you can just get one kid in the portal and they got one of the two kids that we're talking about, Van Sickle or Seaton, Ohio State should technically get back to the point where they can run the ball more consistently. They haven't been good this year at running the ball at points. It's been kind of choppy.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of health is the O-line? That's my one concern about my Ohio State prediction here. If they don't run the ball against Michigan, at least some. I mean, Michigan's front's nasty.
Yeah.
But if they don't run it some, my prediction's in the toilet. How good a health do you think they're in right now?
I think health-wise, they're fine. I think everybody on the offensive line is healthy. Even for the entire team, everybody's healthy. The only guy that's a starter for Ohio State who's not playing in this game is Lathan Ransom, a safety. That's all the original starters and guys that are off the bench in the rotation. And so from offense with Henderson and Tram in the backfield, all 5 starting offensive linemen healthy. Devin Brown, the backup quarterback, who might get short yardage play, which I don't really care. I don't really care about that. Like, bro, if I would have run short yardage, give me my running back or a fullback. I don't need a backup quarterback to come in and do that job. But I understand it's a wrinkle. That's just my own personal thought there. But health is actually way better than I thought it would be right now because the Buckeyes have been pretty dinged up this year.
Ransom's a heck of a player, and that's unfortunate that he's not going to play, but it is what it is. To have one key guy out, that's still pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm sure other guys, and nobody's 100% at this time. I get that, but to have everybody else out of the starting 22, I mean, you really can't argue with that if you're Ryan Day or anybody on that staff. At this time of the year, you're usually at 17 to 18. You're going to lose 3-4 guys during the year. It's just the way it goes. So that's a good deal for them.
Guys, I appreciate Brian Smith coming back on the show once again. You can follow him on X, formerly known as Twitter, at FBScout_Florida. You can follow me on the same platform at JStevens07. Once again, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope you and your family and friends are enjoying the Thanksgiving holiday. Definitely, I'm sure you're watching football, maybe NFL football, or maybe you're going to watch Ole Miss, Mississippi State on Thursday evening. Whatever it is, have fun at doing it, but also stay locked in and tuned in and ready for the game on Saturday. We got one more show coming your way. My guy Corey Thompson from Scarlet and Gray on the YouTube. He'll be with us. Last show of the week. I'm excited. Brian's excited. We both expect Ohio State to win. You'll get my score prediction on tomorrow's show. This has been Locked on Buckeyes here on a Thanksgiving in 2023. I'll see you next time.